Hi, welcome back to Inspired Action Life podcast. I'm your host, Karen Baldridge, and this is episode number 10. And it's the new video series that, if you remember from the other ones, that I am going to be talking to people who are doing their dream, doing things that most of us won't even try to do because we don't want to put ourselves out there. There's some fear involved, too much risk maybe. And some of us just have the guts to do it and some of us don't. So today I'm going to be talking to Hilary Kirchner, and I'm really excited to hear her story. See her right there. Say hi, Hilary.
Hi, everybody.
Hilary, I have had some interaction on a professional level with Hilary, but I don't know her whole backstory as to how she started this content creation agency that she is currently doing, and she's fabulous at it. I know just from the interactions I've had with her professionally is that she is excellent at what she does. Great writer, very creative. But what I found even better was that she's an excellent, and I told her this 1,000 times, I think, editor. She's a great editor. And that's not a synonymous skill set. Trust me, like people who are good writers aren't good editors all the time.
That's
Sometimes
very true.
And I clearly am not. So she had to kind of reorganize my writing, but she's excellent at it and very gracious and open and very collaborative. So I'm really excited to find out when Hilary understood this about herself and when she finally just said, okay, I'm not working in any of these other places. I feel this need to dive in the pool myself. So without further ado, I am going to introduce to you Hilary, and let's hear her story. Hey, Hilary.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Thank you so much for that wonderful intro. It's very sweet of you.
Oh, absolutely. It's my pleasure. I'm honored that you came on. I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And so I guess as with any good interview, let's start at the very beginning. Like, where are you from? How, tell me about you growing up, and then we'll kind of fast forward into your school years and how you started to really focus in on what it is you're doing now.
Sure. So I grew up in Berea, Ohio, which is a weird little suburb of Cleveland. It's funny because my husband likes to equate it to in Monty Python and Holy Grail, Camelot. It's a silly place. Let's not go there because it's such a fun little town because it's a college town, but it was also used to be a mining town. So you have just like all these intersections
going on. And the Cleveland Browns are there, right? Don't they have their training?
That's the Browns training camp. Yeah.
Big stars.
Yes, it's very fun. But yeah, so that's where I grew up. I went to college at Penn State, actually for filmmaking. And then, so that's what my degree is in, is filmmaking and a minor in English. But right before senior year, which is not the time to decide you don't want to do your major. That's what happened. So, that's where we went from there. Is I didn't want to do film, and I was like, well, what else can I do? I think I can write okay, so let's try English.
That was a good choice.
Yeah.
So you decided there at the end of college, that's when you finally figured out, like, hey, this may not be working for me.
Yeah.
For a profession anyway.
Yeah. So, I'd always liked kind of documentary filmmaking and all sorts of stuff. And I realize right now that I'm like super overexposed here.
Oh,
so
the lighting is always a tricky thing. Filmmaker, you would know, lighting is like a huge deal.
Like I literally spent an hour last night trying to get this right with the lighting. So hold on 1 minute.
Yeah, no problem.
Dull the sunlight over here. I wasn't expecting the sun to come out.
Who knew? I mean, Ohio,
I know, right?
What, sun? I haven't seen it in so long. I don't know. I mean,
there we go. Hey, I'm actually not invisible. All right.
I see you. You can't hide now.
Exactly. So I was doing great in filmmaking. I actually love how it's made. Yeah. But I went and I did an internship right before senior year, over the summer. And that's when I realized I don't have the network to
Oh,
really,
kind of important. Yeah.
get out there in Hollywood or New York. And in between, it's mostly, commercial production or independent filmmaking. And I'm not the type of person to fundraise all the time and beg for money. Like, I had to do it in college for our films.
Oh God, that's the worst. Yeah.
Yeah. So it just wasn't quite for me. But I did love the writing aspect, the screenwriting and the screenplays. So I was like, well, maybe I can do something else with this and, kind of leverage that. So that's where I picked up my English minor.
So in your mind, that's where you're going to go.
Yeah.
You're going to move forward with the writing portion. So,
yeah.
so now that you did this, okay, this is still in your swim lane because you're like, hey, I can write and I'm good at it. So what did you do next? Like, what was your next move? Where did you get your first job in writing, or what did you do there?
Actually, no, I started as an editor because I didn't have that portfolio of writing pieces. I wasn't a journalism major. I wasn't an English major, so I didn't quite have the portfolio for it. But I did get hired as a production editor, which is the nitty-gritty proofreading, copy editing of an educational publisher. And from there, I kind of leveraged that into, hey, I can write these little scripts for our online, or digital products. And it just kind of evolved from there. Then the recession happened.
Oh, of course.
And everybody was getting laid off, right?
Have to do a dead stop, right?
Exactly. Luckily, I wasn't one of the ones that got laid off, but I was tired of looking over my shoulder, just waiting for when that would happen. So yeah, so I went and I got another job as a marketing writer, and that's really when the focus on writing as a profession started, I guess.
So that's it. So from the publishing industry, then you went to a different place to do marketing writing. You went to like another job or whatever.
Yeah, I went to a software company
or something.
Yeah, a major IT company, and did their marketing communications writing, so like their email newsletters, their landing pages, that sort of thing.
Now that's interesting. So that's when the light came on, like, this seems to be a natural thing for me, because that's one thing that you always know when you finally lock into what it is that you were probably born to do. I mean, I know that can get overused, but really, honestly, when it comes easy, then something's good here. When it flows right out of you,
right?
This is a good clue. That's the first.
Yes. So I've always kind of felt that way about writing. Like, it's just something I need to do. I'm an avid journaler, and even during this pandemic, I've been writing by hand to people and sending them letters.
That's neat. That's a neat thing to do. Old school, throwing it back, or handling written letters. That's awesome.
It's fun.
Yeah.
But I think more than anything else, writing has let me be curious. Growing up, I never thought, I'm going to be a writer. This is what I want to do, obviously, because I went into film. But what I love to do is just learn about a bunch of different things. Yeah. And then create something from what I learned. And that's kind of what drew me to filmmaking. And I realized with writing, all you need is this and these. Yeah. And you can create something. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. And see, that's another thing, that's another natural gift that you're now just, you're bringing to the forefront. And I just want to stop you right there, because that's an important one, being curious. I mean, because it starts with curiosity. Anyone who is willing to think bigger, dream bigger, or believe bigger, it has to be with a curious mind. But so many people, just kind of, I understand it, go through life not looking around at what's possible, just going, I got to do this. And it's very task oriented, let me mark this off the list, that, and you can be both though. You can be curious and task oriented. I mean, I probably flirt with both sides, I'm both of those, but yeah, that's what is really the catalyst though, is thinking, well, I wonder what I could do with this, or I wonder about this. This is an interesting topic. I mean, and exploring. So that is the first clue. See, if you can go back in time, be a time traveler and reverse engineer it. That was one of your other next clues. That probably wasn't your first clue, but That was one of your clues. You're curious.
Yeah, that was for sure. Yeah, I was thinking about this, before we got on the call, and I remember as a kid, whenever anybody would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
I had a list of like 10 different things.
Of course.
Anywhere from ketchup farmer, because that's what 3-year-olds, that's where ketchup
Yeah.
comes from, right?
What?
To like being a house
creative.
painter, right? To, being an actress, a police officer, all these different things.
Yeah.
And I discovered writing's really how I can explore all those different things. I get to learn about what other people do.
Oh yeah, and it's interesting, right? I mean, I'm the same exact curious person. I mean, you're a natural storyteller because you're curious. I am as well. I have found that like this medium is probably a better medium for me to tell stories and to really kind of dig into that, to find the inspiration for other people, the younger versions of me, the younger versions of you who are just trying to find their path. And like, what would have been, given you the idea that this was going to be your future as an 18-year-old, like,
Right.
So they can kind of learn how to pick up and be a little bit more intuitive with their own path. Right. So they can not go, well, listen to the parents where, oh, well, hey, I'm a accountant. You need to be an accountant. You're good at math. You can be good at stuff, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you love to do it. It's something that you love to do. And here's your next clue that you're bringing out. You would do it for free. You already write for free. You do it anyway, whether you're getting paid. It's nice to get paid. Obviously, that's the goal, but you would do it for free. So now here you are. You're at the marketing agency, and here's your clues. I just caught you up from your backstory. See, I'm converging it together. So there's all your clues. You're at the marketing agency going, okay, I'm really good at this. Now what? What did you do? How did you say I'm jumping in the pool?
That's a great question, because I think what you said about kind of following your intuition and your gut instinct,
yes,
like that's really how I've done all this when it comes down to it. I mean, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of hemming and hawing for like weeks on what I want to do.
Sure.
But I didn't have a business plan. I didn't know how to run a business. I never went to business school.
I get it.
But when I was working as a marketing communications writer, almost as soon as I left the publishing company, the different contacts of folks that I had met there started contacting me asking if I wanted to freelance, because that's kind of how the industry was going. They were turning.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, well, this would really allow me to explore, again, a bunch of different things. So I didn't get bored. Like, I just don't like being bored.
Yeah.
So, I thought about it, and the one project I had at the time, when I broke down the numbers, it was a higher rate of pay than what I was getting at
oh, wow. Okay. So
company.
that's a light bulb.
Right. So I was like, well, I understand I might not even get anything else after this.
That's the fear. But I'm doing it.
I just think I want to try this. And like I said, it was like weeks of talking it through with my husband. And
so you were already married by this point.
Yes.
So, and that's another thing, because that's another accountability, because that's another reason that stops everyone is, now I'm accountable to somebody else. And what if I sink our finances? And oh my gosh, and it's a big risk that some can't even think in their mind to take, because that is a big risk when, all of a sudden you may or may not have a salary for a year, or you might have a great salary. Who knows? I mean, you just don't know. And that's the problem. Right.
And if it wasn't for him, honestly, I probably wouldn't have done it, because I am that type of person where I grew up without a lot of money, so I know what it's like to struggle that way. Yes. And I was like, I don't know if I can take this risk. And he was like, we'll figure it out. Like, he's very good at reminding me that we're actually very resilient people, because as humans, we're all very adaptable. Yeah. I mean, we're still here.
Yeah.
Look
Here
at the
we
are. We're still.
Yeah. Somehow we've survived. Yeah.
We've changed what we're doing, and we're getting there. So, so I just ultimately jumped in. In Ohio, it's easy to start your own business. And
it is. You can just sort of put a shingle out, and there it is. So you completely left your job, and with just a couple like contract jobs in the works? I mean, is that what it
Just
was?
one. Yeah, just one job.
Oh,
One job that was like limited time only.
yeah.
But you know, I was like, I'll just give it my all and jump in. Yeah. So
what, I mean, did you like I know you didn't have a business plan because you aren't a business person, and I understand that, Tane, because that that's a story for another day. Like my husband's always asked me that because he is a business guy, and he's like, "What's your business plan?" I don't have,
yeah, right.
you know, I don't necessarily have one. I'm going by intuition, you know, I'm going by feel, like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You just got to trust me. Right. So, you know, those conversations, but luckily your husband was more supportive in saying, okay, if you feel locked in, I'm going with it because I trust you, you know.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, he also reminded me that what I was choosing to do isn't like opening a retail store or a restaurant. So there's not a lot of overhead, you know?
Yeah, not much risk in terms of, you know, having to get a lot of equipment around you. It's just like you said, here and here. And
yeah, your brain in your hands. And if you have a computer and internet, you can do work.
Pretty much do it.
You have your tools.
So how did you figure out how to go forward to get yourself out there, to market yourself? I mean, what did you do?
I told everybody that I met that what I was doing.
Yeah.
I've done less of that more recently, just because we've gotten so busy and have been growing.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, early on we took basically any project that came our way, editing or writing. We would just tell people what we were up to. You know, I even told our banker.
Oh, really?
At one point, and he explored, you know, hiring us to write a book, that sort of thing for him.
Oh, wow.
So you never know when a connection will
send
something your way.
No, see, again, good point. This is all rich content for me because for me that matters. It's those details, because the way that you can kind of have an autopsy of things is, you know, is going back and looking at the beginning, like, oh my gosh, you know, if I, you know, how the pieces all fit together, and those are the clues. And that's why I felt really strongly to call this Success Leaves Clues, because there's another thing, you know, you've got your banker. Never assume that something's not going to work out, because when something is meant for you, it's meant for you. It's going to find its way to you. And the only thing that's going to stop it is you stopping, you know, pursuing, stopping believing, stopping, you know, just doing anything about it. You are just believing every day. So I'm sure every day when you wake up, is your business one of the first things on your mind?
Especially now. Like I woke up earlier than my alarm today thinking, oh, I need to do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, which can be a blessing and a curse.
Yes, because you can't turn it off, right?
Exactly. It can be hard to turn off. But for sure, like, I think the other thing too is to not limit yourself in what you think you can do. So when I first started, I didn't have a lot of professional writing experience in what I wanted to do. It was more editorial work. And I know a lot of colleagues, when they went into freelance, they're like, oh, I am a math editor, or I am, you know, only this type of copy editor.
Like a niche.
I said, yeah, I can edit that. I can figure it out. And I would hunt down the answer until you did something happened, you know? And just kept trying. So I think that's, especially younger generations who've grown up with Google, you know, just Google it.
And
you learn a lot online, especially in business. So all those like business little things that were going on, you know, how to balance your budget, what should you do about taxes, what,
exactly. And that was actually the things that I was going to come back at you with too. Like, okay, so like you have to suddenly be an expert at everything. And again, that is also a stopper for people. I don't know anything about finances. I don't know. What if I'm like, you know, doing something wrong tax wise, or what if I don't set up the right corporation, or, you know, or, oh, do I need a corporation? Do I, you know, or whatever, do I just do a DBA? Just all of those things things pulled together as one is a huge hurdle to get over. I know me personally, that was one of the reasons why I didn't go forward necessarily and put myself out there in coaching immediately, because there was so many other limitations. And let's face it, life coaching in the Midwest isn't really a thing that much. I mean, there's not many of us out there, right? So that's a risk. That's huge risk. And they're like, you're a what? I thought you were doing writing. No, I'm a life coach, And so, or any kind of coaching, corporate coaching and business coaching. And that's more prevalent. But yeah, the risk is you have to be willing to take on what everybody's thoughts and feelings are about things. And that stops us because it can be like, oh my God, they're going to be thinking, what a fool. Right. But that's how I love to know, like, how did you overcome it? What did your parents think? Because that's a risk. I mean, now granted, you weren't under their umbrella, but what did they think about all this?
I feel like they still kind of think it's not a real job. So because we don't have like a brick and mortar location, we're all digital.
It's a real job.
Like I can't even begin to tell you how many times people are like, call me during the day. They're like, oh, well, you can just stop what you're doing
and go, right?
No, I am still actually working.
They don't see it. That is such a parent thing. That is like such a parent from that generation. Like, Karen stays home. No, Karen does not. I mean, Karen is home, but Karen is working.
Yeah,
exactly. They don't get this. And that is hilarious that you said that. Again, relatable. I get it.
Yeah.
But anymore these days, there's so many virtual work situations that it's becoming more prevalent and normal, to just, I work from my home. But I was just wondering what they thought about like the money that you would have to put out there for marketing or anything like that. Cause I know that parents get concerned. Like I would do this as my son, if he were to go off and say, well, I'm going to finish my college degree and then I'm going to open up my own business. What? You need some experience. No, don't do that. So I just wondered if they gave you any pushback, because that's stopper, right? That can be.
Yeah. I mean, they're very kind about it. Like they don't say, what's your plan? What you're going to, you can always just kind of tell her like, okay, we'll see how this happens. And I'm going to zip my lips about it.
Yeah. That's good. So they weren't,
so
in
let me
your
do it
about it,
But I think what kind of alleviated some of those fears is, especially in the type of work that we were doing, kind of project-based creative work.
Yeah.
Honestly, having a film degree was the best choice, because filmmaking is small business projects. Like you have to run your budget. You have to hire the experts that just for that time.
Right.
You have to find funding and then get it out there and distribute it. So I didn't realize that at the time, but it was kind of a crash course for owning your own business, and especially project-based creative work.
Another clue, because you understand that hiring the right people is also, and I have found in my business coaching that is the hugest hurdle for small businesses, medium-sized businesses, is the hiring process, because you waste a lot of time and you waste a lot of money, and it gets you off production if you're not having the right people in place. So that's really hard. That's a skill set in and of itself. So I'm assuming you must go somewhat with your intuition, because clearly you're intuitive, but you also have to see their portfolio, obviously. But there has to be some intuition. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, we've been lucky in what we do that we haven't, like I said, we haven't needed a lot of overhead or hiring on a lot of people. There's a great network of really experienced freelancers out there. I think larger companies as a whole don't hire content creators, graphic designers, writers, editors, that are maybe as experienced as some of these long-term independent consultants.
That's a good point.
So what I've really liked to do is bring together teams of people for a project. They're not maybe necessarily our full-time employees,
right?
But it's great working with creatives that way.
Oh my gosh. Well, see, that's a great resource and a great little tip. Anybody out there listening, that it's not necessarily the wrong way to go when you want to be your own boss and you want to do your own business and you're really good at something. That's one way to even do it on the side somewhat, but you kind of need their full attention, because if you hire them, there has to be an expectation that they're going to be available, right? I mean, they're going to get
Yeah, I
a
mean, at
job
least
done.
for the project. But yeah, I definitely like to run things on treating people like adults, and you're there for a reason. I don't want to look over your shoulder every 2 seconds.
Exactly. That's
Get
not
it
my
done on
thing.
time. That's
I don't
fine.
have time and I don't have the inclination to babysit.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
that's true. There is some expectation where, and so, well, I think that's, again, if you can look back, does this all feel like meant to be? I mean, do you love doing what you do, or are there any big challenges that you would change the route? I mean, you could change as far as develop your idea, but
Yeah.
really feel like, hey, this was meant to be for me. And how do you
I
know?
think, yeah, I definitely want to do this for the foreseeable future. I have no intention of going back to corporate world. I have a very low tolerance for politics. And sort of that whole, your raise is merit based, but we can't give you anything higher than X amount
Yes.
of,
Oh, yes.
rating. I think in a lot of ways, bigger corporations disincentive people to be good at what they do.
Okay. Now, again, another good point. And
Mhm.
I noticed that too, coming from the corporate world and then jumping into freelance. That was a gap that I saw, is that there's a lot of disincentive people
Mhm.
out there. And I thought, now how can I bridge that gap as far as coaching and bringing in an idea? And you are hitting it exactly, the gap that I saw too, is like, how do you develop like an intrapreneurship instead of an entrepreneurship within a corporation? Is that possible? Are there opportunities for that? Or, maybe they could kind of reframe the work so that people like you, they're not losing excellent talent, which is
Mhm.
they're letting, bloodletting people like you
Yeah.
go because they don't know what to do with your amount of talent. You know what I mean? They don't know how
Mhm.
to use it to their advantage, and there's got to
Right.
be a better way, right?
Or they don't see it, especially, in kind of a creative type world, publishing or otherwise.
Mhm.
You're working on in your set role on a set project, and you don't get opportunity to show what else you can do,
Thank
because that's what the business makes. They make this type of
a widget,
thing.
and this is their
Right.
widget, and you stay within the confines of the widget,
Yeah. So, and that's, like I said before, I hate being bored. So
Yeah.
that's kind of why I keep doing what I'm doing, is to
I
explore and try new things.
I love it. And I love that you just did it and your husband was supportive. That's a huge part of the story. I feel like um, that was a bit of a struggle for my end, because he's like, what are you doing? You're leaving? No. Oh my gosh. So that was a struggle, and that not everybody has the cohesion between
Yeah.
partners that, so again, there just seems to be a meant to beism about what you did. And it seems
Mhm.
so natural. Like there doesn't, unless you're hiding some big drama from me, that seemed like a real natural flow, which I love that, because you were following your gut.
Yeah, I would say it was natural and, following gut instinct, but I will also say there's ton, a ton of like uncertainty and lack of confidence, and just, I double guess just about everything I do. So it's definitely not like, I know what I'm doing, it's super easy, and this is how we're going to do it. That's
Yeah.
not,
And I got all the plan, it's going to work
yeah,
out
that's not me at
exactly
all.
as I say. Never does.
Yeah, growing up, I was always the straight A student. I knew what I had to do to get that A. Business and life is not like that. You can mess up a
Yeah.
bunch of times
Yeah.
and still be considered successful.
Isn't that interesting? And
Yeah.
again, good quotable quote. I may quote you on that in the show notes. Is you can fail a ton of times and you can still be viewed as having a
Mhm.
successful career, a successful business, or whatever, making the right choice. It appears you clearly did make the right choice, and that's
Yeah.
I mean, again, that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. It doesn't mean you're not going to eat some humble pie here and
Mhm.
there and have some failure along the way, and people may be looking like, what is she doing? Like, why are you,
Yeah.
doing this for sure thing, because you were probably, I'm guessing, knowing you on the professional level, as I have for the interaction, you were probably a rock star at the publishing company and doing writing, marketing, copy. No question. You were good at it.
Yeah, well, I'm learning that now that that's how people saw me, but at the time I just was in my own little world, and because I didn't get that feedback from, supervisors, and I didn't see how other people were working as closely as I do now as a business owner, hiring people.
Yes.
So I didn't realize that how I think of things and how I do things is not how other people do it. Right?
Again, that's another one. That's a big one, because it's easy for you. It's just easy. You were just built for it. Like all the details and the bells and whistles. And then the other thing is, that's why companies lose people like you. Middle management doesn't take care and shepherd people like you. And that's why they lose people like you. Because they're not shepherding you along and not developing you. And
right.
saying,
and they're not,
you're awesome at this.
You
else
don't get a
we
chance
do?
to look at other people's stuff. Everybody's kind of like in their own cube, trying to,
you're in your
get
silo.
stuff out.
Right. You're in your silo. So you have no idea what the group at large is doing. And, you're just getting it done because that's what you're born to do. And see, again, this has been really enlightening from both sides, because for me, because I came from a similar background in terms of coming from corporate and then jumping into like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to do it. Like, oh no, what's this going to look like? And then also just from the management and then hiring practices, just everything. There's so many pieces that I'm gonna listen back to this, and I'll be quoting you on these show notes, because it's valuable. And there's going to be people like you and like me who are going to be listening to this and going, okay, I'm taking notes here, because she just freaking did it. What are you going to say? She just jumped in the pool, and nothing is without risk. Nothing you do that's worth having is without some risk. You're going to have to, and you may have to plunk down a couple thousand for some sort of a training, and just hope that it goes good, and just hope that it produces something. But it's not a guarantee, but really it comes to what's in your heart, and you were determined, like, I'm going to create something. You had that curious mind, that drive. Are you a driven person by nature? Like, would you call yourself driven by nature?
Yeah, I think I would. Definitely driven to succeed, coming from a straight A.
Yeah. There's clearly something there that was self-motivating. You're a self-motivating person. So,
but you don't get, report cards in the business world anymore. So that has been an adjustment.
Yeah. So you don't know where you stack up, because you're just
don't always know.
Yeah. You can't uncertain. Do it commensurate with your pay raises, right? Because you're just getting those merit increases, and that's just given to whoever. That's like everybody gets a medal, right? So it's hard to tell whether or not you hit a metric that is worthwhile, right? So I understand. So I completely understand why people go into entrepreneurship, because there needs to be some validation, which is, why a lot of people do a lot of things. We crave validation. We crave, not compliments, but just validation. It's not like, oh, I need you to tell me how great I am. It's not that. It's, am I great at this? Because I feel like I am. Do you see what I see? So, and so you're able to get that with a job well done. One of your clients that you bring on, and they go, this is excellent. You're like,
yeah, exactly. Or even just, the joy of being able to do something else, keep it going. That is sometimes reward enough. But, I always do like to say it's not easy. It's very difficult. And actually, 2 weeks ago, I had kind of an aha moment, because I've been trying to write a novel on the side. It's actually,
on the side.
On the side. Yeah. It's my second attempt. I think it's going better than my first, but as I'm writing it, sometimes it's such a different way of using your brain that I was like, oh, this has got to be like the worst, bundle of sentences I've ever seen in my entire life.
What is this mess?
It's so difficult. I get, writer's block or that lack of confidence, whatever it is that kind of slows you down and bogs you down.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this is so difficult. I must not be good at it.
Oh.
And I went back and I read it. I'm like, this is actually not half bad. And so the realization that just because something's difficult doesn't mean you're bad at it has just it's helped me so much. Yeah.
Thank you again. Yes. That's never what it means. And again, it's at that point that people cut and run. I give up. I'm terrible, because that's what we tell ourselves. Like, oh, if everybody didn't love me and tell me how amazing I am, or if this doesn't come easy to me, then I'm terrible. It's not a pass fail zero sum game. I mean, it's a process. That just means that the breakthrough is a little further down the road. This is just an obstacle to maybe steer you in a different direction where your intuition is trying to get you to go and you're just not listening to it. You're fighting it. And so there's so much to learn from that if you can go back again and examine every decisions, or big decisions anyway, that you've made. How did you arrive there? There was probably some nudging, and there was probably some misdirection that you took because your brain is saying, oh no, you're terrible at this. You're not going to succeed.
What are you thinking?
Yeah. What were you thinking? You're going to fail. I mean, you're going to bankrupt yourself, or what will they think? The old analysis of an out they, whoever the heck they are, we'll never know, but what will they think, is always tough, or, fear of judgment. But I love that. That's a huge pivotal point. Doesn't mean you're bad just because it was hard at the time.
And it's so easy to look at somebody else and say, oh, they make it look so easy, so it must be easy for them because they're successful. Like, they're an expert, it must be easy. And it's not. Like, when you're doing it, I'm uncertain all the time. So there's a lot of this happening.
Like jump and go.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, see, that's great too. I mean, no one ever has the plan all laid out. We just take the next right step. It really comes down to the next step that lights up in front of you. You step on it and then see what happens. I've always resonated with the saying that courage is a muscle. It takes some work to be courageous, but then it becomes easier, and then the intuition becomes greater. You get just downloaded with not only courage, but just the knowing that even though I don't know what this next step is, I know it's going to be fine. It's going to work out. There's just a certain knowing that comes along with courage and making courageous steps like that. I mean, like you said, a novel. I mean, what the heck? What in the world? I mean, that's such a huge undertaking. Do you want to share with us what the premise of your novel is, so that way we can know to look for it later when you're finished and ready to publish?
Now this is really holding me to it.
Yes. Oh, perfect. Good. Do it.
So it's basically a modern fantasy ghost story
I love
about a fictional Ohio town where if you die in a certain manner, you're not actually dead, but you're transformed into another type of being. So it's super weird, but
I love it. That is such a great niche, though. I love ghost stories and not paranormal. I would just call it kind of paranormal, but fantasy, and I love that.
Yeah, total escapism right now is what I'm going for.
I love it. Well, what's funny is that's another thing, and I mean, we can, wrap this up, but that is another thing, that you're hitting two birds with one stone. Since you're already a creative person, they say a lot of times that people who stop short in their life and don't produce as they could or should is because there's things that are blocked in them. They don't have a creative outlet. Maybe they don't have their friends, you need other influences besides just yourself or your spouse. Sometimes you just need other influence. Definitely need a creative outlet. And this novel hits two birds with one stone. And do you find that when you have a successful writing day for your novel, that somehow your writing for your work sometimes flows a little easier because you're in the zone?
The whole day flows better. When you get kind of that that flow going and you can do it and you feel like, hey, this is fun and I can maybe get paid to do this. This is great.
Yeah. I mean, like, what is better than getting paid for something that is fun for you to do?
Exactly.
And you, again, would do it for free. Then you know you're
Mhm.
in the right place, you know, and you're doing
Mhm.
the right thing. And so it's so fulfilling, right? And so I'm so excited to hear you kind of hit on all those points that I have known over and over to be true, but it's so wonderful to hear them validated by people like you and other people
Mhm.
doing their thing in the world, doing what they were like created to do. And you were obviously created to do this. And then you validate every one of those things that I have known to be true, that I even, learned in coaching models and things. And you're just here like going, ripping them off one by one. Like, yeah, I do this. Yep. That's what it says, and you're doing everything just as it's supposed to happen. So I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a great story because it's going to be really inspiring for other people as well to maybe, again, give them permission. Because that's why I'm doing this, because I would have loved to have reached out to the 20-year-old me. I
Oh
would have
yeah.
loved to listen to what you're saying as a successful business owner, an agency, creator from the ground up, to have the permission to give myself, my 20-year-old self, to do what I am now doing now,
Mhm.
which I should have done, several years back. But, and so hopefully you're going to be that girl that will just make it happen for them. So this has been great and such a great story that you have, and great talking to you. And thank you for being
Thank
open
you.
and sharing with us. Can you tell us where we can find you and what, do you want to throw a niche out there that you mostly write for, or is it just everybody? Like, tell us a little bit about what you're doing and where we can find you.
Yeah, so my company is Dream Write Creative, and write as in writing.
Writing. Good.
So dreamwritecreative.com or on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
What we mostly focus on is helping companies that are in healthcare or highly technical industries tell their story and get more creative. So we blend instructional design with storytelling so they can not only educate people on what it is that they do, but get people excited and ultimately empower them to take action, whether it's buy their service or make a change in the world, or things like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that is clearly, this is a timely thing for you to be doing, since everything is so media driven and different platforms of media. Do you do any kind of graphic stuff, or is it just the writing, or is it a combo, a little bit of both, or do you dabble?
A little bit of both. So what we mainly focus on is creating content for interactive or multimedia platforms. So that can be video, audio, e-learning, gaming, that sort of thing, not just print, not just website.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah, so that adds a whole other element to it. And whenever we have a project that needs extra talent, more graphic design, photography, we bring in other people. So to any creatives out there, keep in touch, because we like to put together teams for different projects.
I love it. Okay, well, that is fantastic. And I will make sure that all of that information gets in the show notes. And because you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, this information will find itself in front of the right people. I guarantee it. It always does. That's just how it works, when you're flowing like that. So,
well, I hope so.
yeah, it will. It's going to be great. I can already tell. I can attest. Hilary's awesome. She's great at what she does, and wonderful to work with. And like I said, very collaborative and detailed. And she has wonderful end results for her clients. So it's going to be good.
And definitely listen to what Karen's saying, because as she said, it's not pass fail. You can keep going. So
yes, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Hilary. I appreciate you taking time to talk to us, and keep in touch, and maybe we'll meet again for a second interview after that novel is wrapping up, so we can kind of launch it out there. Can't wait. I'm excited. That'll be awesome.
Well, thanks.
All right. Have a good day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.